Ladies and gentlemen, what if for just 1 hour, you could become someone else? Not for a lifetime, not even a day, but for 60 fleeting minutes, you adopt a role not your own. A doctor, a thief, a poet, a beggar, a ruler. In that hour, masks fall away and new ones emerge. You do not act, you embody. This is the 1 hour role. You may ask, why bother? Because in this 1 hour, the soul speaks truths we silence. The role is not deception, it is revelation. Let me share with you 5 keynotes reflections that this sacred hour can teach us. We often think of the mask as something false, an instrument of deception, a barrier between our true selves and the world. But this is a grave misunderstanding. The mask, in truth, is not a lie, it is a language. It speaks for us when words cannot. It carries the weight of centuries of human adaptation. It allows us to enter the world, to belong to a system of meaning, to engage in the great theater of life without being overwhelmed by its infinite complexity. Each day, we put on roles: the friend, the student, the parent, the lover, the stranger. These roles are not betrayals of who we are. They are expressions of it, filtered through the needs of the moment. Without them, we would be like raw nerves exposed to the chaos of existence. The mask enables contact. It is the bridge between the inner world and the outer reality. When we take on a 1 hour role, stepping into a mask not usually ours, we don't necessarily conceal our true nature. Instead, we reveal another layer of it. We discover that our personality is not a fixed point, but a constellation. Each role is a different star, lighting up a different aspect of our being. The mask, then, is not an escape from authenticity, but a dialect spoken by the self to communicate with the world, to protect what is tender and sacred inside, and to experiment with becoming. Some fear the mask because they believe it creates distance from the soul. But perhaps it's the opposite. Perhaps the mask, when consciously chosen, draws us nearer to the soul's complexity. It gives form to the formless, a shape to the shifting waters within. Like a sacred ritual garment, the mask does not hide, it transforms. It allows us to engage the world without collapsing into it, to touch others without losing ourselves entirely in the process. And most importantly, the mask is never arbitrary. It is shaped by the inner necessity of the moment. When we take on the role of a teacher, a healer, a warrior, a dreamer, we are not pretending. We are activating archetypes within us, ancient and eternal forms that live deep in the collective human experience. These roles speak through us. The mask is their voice. To wear a mask consciously, then, is not to pretend. It is to participate. It is to speak the language of the psyche in a world that often demands silence from the soul. The key is awareness. When we wear the mask with awareness, we are not controlled by it. We collaborate with it. We become both the actor and the observer, both the symbol and the symbolized. So let us not disdain the mask. Let us recognize it as a sacred tool, an instrument of translation between the mysterious world within and the equally mysterious world without. In that understanding, we no longer fear the mask. We respect it. We learn its grammar, and in time we learn to speak fluently in the many languages of the self. Within each of us, there exists a presence we rarely invite to speak, a silent figure, lurking just beyond the light of our conscious awareness. We call it the shadow, but in truth, it is neither evil nor monstrous. It is simply what we have forgotten, denied, or feared to accept about ourselves. It is the unlived life, the rejected emotions, the impulses we deemed inappropriate, the talents we were too afraid to explore, and the pain we never allowed to heal. The shadow is not our enemy. It is an ally in disguise, waiting for the moment when we are brave enough to meet it with honesty rather than shame. When we take on a temporary role, perhaps for only an hour, we often stumble into aspects of ourselves that surprise us. We might feel strangely at ease playing a character we've always judged. We might find power in a role we once considered weak, or softness in a mask we thought to be cruel. These moments are not accidents. They are invitations, subtle signals from the unconscious that there is more to us than we know, and that what we resist might hold the key to our wholeness. The shadow manifests in different ways. Sometimes it wears the face of anger, jealousy, ambition, or desire. Other times, it hides behind excessive virtue, compliance, or control. We exile it because it doesn't fit the story we tell ourselves about who we are, but exiling it does not erase it. It only pushes it deeper, where it gathers strength and weights. Sooner or later, the shadow finds a way to return, through dreams, projections, missteps, or moments of emotional intensity, not to harm us, but to reintroduce itself, to remind us of what still lives within. Stepping into a role foreign to our identity, especially for a brief, conscious period, can become a mirror reflecting the very contents of this shadow. We might experience discomfort, tension, or even exhilaration. And in those reactions, we begin to uncover parts of ourselves that long to be integrated. The parts we demonize in others often live unexamined in ourselves. That is the paradox. What we fear outside is often what we have not faced inside. But the shadow is not a force of destruction unless ignored. When brought into the light of awareness, it transforms. What once felt threatening now feels instructive. What we used to repress can become a source of vitality and insight. The energy we spent suppressing our shadow becomes the energy we use to grow, to create, to love more deeply, and to live more authentically. To see the shadow not as a curse, but as a companion is to reclaim our completeness. We are not just light, just kindness, just control. We are chaos and order, rage and compassion, instinct and intellect. The 1 hour role in this context is a ritual, an experiment in becoming, a sacred container in which we can meet these hidden parts without fear. It offers us a moment to say, what would happen if I stopped running from what is already mine? The shadow teaches us humility, and with it, mercy. For if we can hold space for our own darkness, we begin to soften toward the darkness of others. Judgment fades, empathy rises. The line between the saint and the sinner begins to blur, not into confusion but into understanding. We are all complex. We are all carrying what we cannot name, so let us not turn away from the shadow. Let us meet it, listen to it, and learn from it. For it is not the enemy of the light. It is the depth that gives the light meaning. And perhaps in that 1 hour, in that fleeting encounter with another role, we may find not someone else, but the rest of ourselves. Imagination is often misunderstood as a flight from reality, a refuge for the dreamer who wishes to avoid the harshness of the world. Yet this view is superficial and misses a profound truth. Imagination is not an escape. It is a mirror, one that reflects the deepest currents of the soul and the unseen realms of our inner life. To imagine is to engage with the very substance of the psyche, to give form to the invisible, and to glimpse what lies beyond the surface of everyday consciousness. When we allow ourselves to imagine, we enter a sacred space where the boundaries between the inner and outer worlds blur. It is here that symbols arise, images and stories that speak in a language older than words. These symbols are not random fantasies, but meaningful messages from the unconscious, carrying insights and guidance that our rational mind alone cannot access. The act of imagination becomes a dialogue with ourselves, a way to explore the shadow, the anima and animus, the archetypes that shape human experience across time and culture. In taking on a 1 hour role, the imagination is the tool that allows us to step beyond the familiar. It invites us to inhabit another's world, to feel their fears, joys, and contradictions. This is not mere play, it is a transformative encounter. By imagining ourselves as another, we see our own complexities reflected back, often with startling clarity. We discover that the other is not truly other at all, but a mirror of hidden parts within us. Imagination holds up this mirror, revealing what is concealed by daily routine and conscious self-image. Far from avoiding reality, imagination deepens our engagement with it. Through the symbolic language of dreams, myths, and art, imagination opens pathways to healing and wholeness. It allows us to confront conflicts and paradoxes within ourselves safely, to experiment with possibilities, and to envision new ways of being. It is the birthplace of creativity, courage, and insight. To deny imagination is to cut off a vital connection to the soul's wisdom. Without it, we risk becoming trapped in a rigid, one-dimensional existence, losing touch with the richness and mystery of life. When we embrace imagination as a mirror, we honor the unseen dimensions of ourselves and the world. We learn that every imagined scenario, every role played, every dream dreamed, is a doorway into a deeper truth. Thus, the imagination is a sacred faculty, both a compass and a canvas. It guides us inward, helping us navigate the labyrinth of the psyche, while also painting visions of who we might become. In the 1-hour role, imagination is the bridge between the mask and the self, between the known and the unknown. It calls us to participate fully in the unfolding drama of our own lives. So let us not dismiss imagination as childish or escapist. Instead, let us recognize it as one of the soul's greatest gifts, a mirror held up to the mysteries within, inviting us to see, to understand, and ultimately, to become whole. Our sense of who we are often feels like a solid, unchanging essence, a core self fixed and stable. Yet identity is more fluid and dynamic than this simple notion suggests. True identity does not reveal itself in isolation or uniformity. It emerges through contrast, through the tension between opposites. It is only by encountering what is different, unfamiliar, or even opposed to us that the contours of the self become visible and distinct. Imagine a single candle flame in total darkness. The flame defines itself against the void, its brightness made meaningful by the surrounding shadows. In much the same way, our identity comes into focus not when we are enclosed in sameness, but when we meet difference, when we face roles and experiences that challenge our habitual patterns. The 1-hour role offers precisely such an encounter, a momentary step outside the known, a crossing of boundaries that can illuminate aspects of ourselves otherwise hidden. When we try on another's role, we do not lose ourselves. Instead, the contrast reveals what is unique within us. We feel what feels alien, and in that sensation, we understand our own preferences, limitations, and desires more clearly. This dialectic, the interplay between self and other, known and unknown, becomes a mirror in which the self is sculpted. The more we engage with difference, the more nuanced and rich our identity becomes. This process is not always comfortable. The unfamiliar role may evoke confusion, resistance, or even discomfort. But these feelings are signs of growth, markers of the psyche expanding beyond its previous boundaries. Without such tension, identity risks becoming brittle, rigid, and shallow. It is through the friction of opposites that the soul forges its depth and resilience. Moreover, identity is not a single fixed point, but a constellation of potentials, some conscious, others hidden deep within the unconscious. By exposing ourselves to contrasting roles, even if only for an hour, we touch these hidden facets. The role acts as a key unlocking chambers within, revealing treasures and shadows alike. In this unfolding, we begin to see identity as a living mosaic, composed of many pieces that only reveal their beauty when placed alongside one another. In this way, the 1-hour role becomes a sacred experiment in becoming. It invites us to hold paradox and multiplicity rather than seeking simple answers. True identity embraces complexity, contradiction, and change. It does not fear what is different because it understands that difference is the soil from which selfhood grows. Ultimately, the self is not what we insist it must be, but what it becomes when we open ourselves to the world's vastness. It is the reflection seen not in a single mirror, but in many, each offering a different perspective, each deepening the understanding of who we truly are. In the tension of contrast, identity is not lost but found. It shines forth, not as a static essence, but as a dynamic and evolving truth. Within each human being lies an inner world vast and mysterious, a realm of dreams, emotions, memories, and potentials that often remain unseen and unheard. This inner world is not a silent chamber, but a living, breathing landscape that demands expression. It calls to be recognized, honored, and shared, for the soul's vitality depends on its voice being heard. When the inner world is silenced or ignored, it does not vanish. Rather, it grows restless and seeks other, sometimes unconscious, ways to make itself known. This demand for expression is as ancient as humanity itself. From the earliest cave paintings to the myths told around the fire, from poetry to music, the soul has found ways to speak beyond the limits of ordinary language. The inner world is rich with symbols, images, and narratives that shape our experience of reality and give meaning to our lives. It longs not only to be acknowledged privately, but to be given form in the shared world, to be made visible, audible, and tangible. When we take on a role for just 1 hour, we create a sacred space where this inner world can emerge, often unexpectedly. The masks we wear daily may constrain or channel our expression, but the chosen role can loosen these boundaries and allow new aspects of the psyche to surface. This is not mere acting or imitation. It is a form of dialogue with the unconscious, a chance to bring forth what has been hidden, neglected, or repressed. The psyche seeks balance through expression. Like a river that must flow, emotions and ideas must find a channel. If the inner world is denied expression, it can manifest as anxiety, restlessness, or illness. Dreams may become turbulent, and the body itself may bear the burden. But when we honor the call and allow the soul's language to be heard, through art, movement, story, or simply presence, healing and wholeness become possible. Each 1 hour role is an invitation to listen deeply to the voices within, to the symbols that arise, and to the energy seeking release. In stepping into a role, we may discover a language we did not know we possessed, a story waiting to be told, a feeling begging to be felt. This process connects us to the timeless human experience, reminding us that we are part of a greater whole, where the inner world and outer life dance in continuous dialogue. The demand for expression is also a call to authenticity. The soul's voice is unique and cannot be replaced or silenced without loss. When we respond to this call, we move toward becoming more fully ourselves, more alive, more aware, more connected. We find a rhythm that resonates not only within but also with others, fostering empathy and understanding. Thus, the inner world's demand for expression is a sacred trust. It is both a gift and a responsibility. To answer it is to honor the depth of our being and to contribute to the living tapestry of humanity. In the brief time of a 1 hour role, this demand may whisper to us gently or roar like a storm, but it will not be ignored. So let us listen. Let us create. Let us allow the inner world to speak through us, so that we may live not as fragments, but as whole beings moving in harmony with the profound mystery of life.